The ancient alchemists risked their lives to protect this secret. Hermes Trismegistus, Paracelsus, Newton, all knew that the true philosopher's stone was not gold, but enlightenment itself. Now this knowledge has found you, but are you ready to receive it? Many give up at the first portal because it demands the death of the old self. If you are not prepared to lose yourself, stop now. But if you feel that this message has not reached you by mere chance, then continue. The journey has begun, and there is no turning back. If you wish to cross all the portals, move forward. Let's begin. First portal, the death of the old self. Negredo. Every true transformation process begins with a collapse. Negredo, known as the dark night of the soul, is the first portal of internal alchemy, requiring great courage to cross. This is the moment when everything you believed yourself to be begins to crumble. Your old identity, your certainties, your beliefs, all are put to the test. The fire of destruction spares nothing that is not essential, which is why many turn back at this point. But those who resist the fall will never know ascension. The question remains, are you ready to die to the person you thought you were? Most people fear this stage because they mistake dissolution for failure. But the ancient alchemists knew that for gold to be extracted, raw material must be reduced to its purest state. Paracelsus taught that illness is not a punishment, but a process of healing. And the same applies to the soul. Everything that limits you, holds you back, and prevents you from evolving must be burned in the flames of transmutation. Relationships that no longer make sense, destructive thought patterns, self-sabotaging habits, nothing can be carried into the next portal. This moment is painful because the ego fights to stay intact. It desperately clings to old narratives, justifying its suffering and resisting the unknown. But the truth is, you cannot be reborn while still holding on to the identity you built in the past. Carl Jung spoke about the necessity of facing the shadow, that dark side of ourselves we avoid seeing. Negredo forces you to confront this forgotten part of yourself. You will stand before the mirror of your soul and must decide: surrender to the process or retreat into the illusion of safety. Those who pass through this portal and surrender to the necessary destruction begin to feel an unexpected relief. What once seemed like an end reveals itself as a new beginning. Just as the phoenix is reborn from its ashes, you will begin to realize that there is something beyond the initial chaos. The first portal, as terrifying as it may seem, is merely the beginning of the journey. Everything you once thought was essential starts to lose its significance, and in its place arises an empty space, a space that will soon be filled with a new consciousness. But for that to happen, you must trust the process. Now that your old self is dissolving, the question is no longer about what was lost, but what can emerge from here. If you had the courage to step through this portal, congratulations, you have already taken a step that many never dare to take. But the journey is far from over. After destruction comes purification. After chaos comes clarity. And this leads us to the second portal of alchemy. Second portal, inner illumination turn albedo. After destruction comes silence. Albedo, the white phase of alchemy, is the second portal and represents purification. If Negredo dissolved your old identity, albedo is the emptiness that remains. It is a strange state, as if you are suspended between two worlds. You are no longer who you were, but you do not yet know who you will become. Ancient mystics described this stage as an infinite white ocean, where the mind becomes quiet and answers stop coming from the outside. Here, the only compass available is your own intuition. But to hear it, you must learn to silence the noise of the world. We live surrounded by information, opinions, and beliefs that shape us from childhood. Hermes Trismegistus taught that the universe is mental, meaning that everything you think and feel influences your reality. But in albedo, a paradox arises. To access your true wisdom, you must stop seeking answers. This is the moment to empty the mind and observe what remains when all external voices fall silent. Those who have experienced deep meditation understand this phenomenon. When thought ceases, a new type of perception emerges. It is here that the inner masters begin to speak. However, this stage can be uncomfortable for many. Most people seek knowledge compulsively without realizing that true wisdom arises in silence. Isaac Newton spent years in isolation before making his greatest discoveries. Lao Tzu said that the purest water is that which remains still. And so it is with the mind in albedo, a serene lake, undisturbed, reflecting the truth without distortions. But to reach this state, you must resist the temptation to fill the emptiness with distractions. Silence must be accepted, not avoided. This phase is also a test of patience. At first, it may seem as if nothing is happening, but gradually you will begin to perceive invisible patterns, spontaneous insights, and a clarity that once seemed unattainable. Carl Jung spoke of synchronicity, those moments when the universe seems to speak to us in subtle ways. When the ego is silent, the universe whispers. But to hear this hidden language, you must remain in albedo long enough. Those who resist silence return to chaos. Those who surrender to it find true vision. And it is this vision that prepares us for the next portal. After purification comes alignment with the truth. Now that your mind has quieted, you will begin to see what was always hidden. But beware, the truth can be uncomfortable. Are you ready to face the reflection of your own consciousness? In the next portal, you will discover that the world was never what it seemed to be. Third portal, alignment with truth. The third portal marks the moment when illusions begin to dissolve. In albedo, you experienced silence, but now it is time to see what has always been hidden. The external world has never been random. It has always reflected your inner world. As Hermes Trismegistus taught, what is within is like what is outside. But what if the reality you see is merely a mirror of the beliefs you carry? Truth is not what you wish it to be. It is what has always existed, regardless of your opinions. In this portal, you will begin to realize that many certainties were merely conditioning. Truth can be uncomfortable. From an early age, we are taught to see the world through fixed patterns, collective beliefs, and invisible rules that limit our potential. But as you pass through this portal, you begin to notice the repetitive patterns in your life. What keeps repeating in your relationships, in your failures, in your successes? As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Here you understand that there is no fixed destiny, only reflections of your own energy. Reality responds to what you believe to be true. This realization is liberating, but it also brings responsibility. Isaac Newton studied alchemy to understand the invisible forces that govern the universe. What he discovered was that hidden laws have always been in motion, whether we are aware of them or not. When you grasp this, you realize that nothing in your life has happened by accident. Everything you have experienced has been a reflection of your vibration, of what you allowed and of what you accepted. You have been the architect of your own journey, and if you wish to change the world around you, you must first change how you see yourself. But be careful. Many people become stuck in this portal. When truth appears, the natural reaction is denial. It is easier to blame luck, the government, society, or others than to admit that you have always had the power to transform your reality. What seemed like bad luck was a pattern. What seemed like coincidence was synchronicity. What seemed impossible was just a limitation imposed by fear. When you understand that everything is vibration, you realize that life does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. This changes everything. Now, the next portal will reveal one of the most powerful secrets of alchemy, the word as a tool for creation. If reality responds to vibration, then the way you communicate with the world can be your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. What you say shapes what you live. Are you ready to learn the hidden power of words and how to use them to manifest your reality? Fourth portal, the power of the word and the manifestation of reality. Crossing this portal means understanding that words do not just describe reality, they shape it. Since ancient times, sages have known that sound carries power. In Egypt, this was called Heka, the magic of the spoken word. Hermes Trismegistus taught that the universe is mental, and if everything is mind, then what you verbalize becomes a command to the universe. But how many times have you used your own voice against yourself? How many times have you repeated phrases like, "I never succeed," "This isn't for me," or "My life is difficult"? Without realizing it, you are giving orders to the universe to solidify those realities. Modern science has already proven that sound and vibration influence matter, something alchemists understood centuries ago. Cymatics experiments show that sound frequencies reorganize particles into perfect geometric patterns. Now imagine that every word you speak generates a specific vibration that shapes both your inner and outer reality. If you constantly describe yourself as unlucky, anxious, or a failure, then those words program your mind and energy field to maintain that vibration. The alchemy of the word begins when you become conscious of what you verbalize and deliberately choose words that create a higher reality. But there is a crucial detail. It is not enough to speak positive words if your internal energy is not aligned with them. If someone repeats, "I am prosperous," but constantly feels fear of lack, their vibration remains misaligned. Manifestation only happens when thought, word, and emotion are in sync. Isaac Newton said, "For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction," and this applies to words as well. If you speak something without conviction or feeling, the universe responds with the same intensity. Nothing changes. True transmutation occurs when your speech becomes a faithful reflection of your inner vibration. The great spiritual masters have always emphasized the power of the word. The Bible states, "In the beginning was the Word." Genesis says that God created the world with words, "Let there be light." And if everything that exists began with a word, what are you creating with yours? Carl Jung taught that words shape our thoughts and our thoughts shape our reality. If you want to change your life, start by changing what you say about yourself and the world. When you speak, you do not just communicate, you program your mind and the energetic field around you. Now that you understand the hidden power of words, you are ready to take the next step, the fusion of opposites. Many believe they must choose between light and shadow, reason and emotion, action and receptivity. But the true alchemist does not choose a side. He integrates both. Are you ready to understand the secret of duality and how to harmonize all forces within yourself? Then proceed to the next portal. Fifth portal, the fusion of opposites. The true alchemist knows that all transformation arises from the fusion of opposing forces, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, mind and heart. For centuries, humanity has been taught to choose a side, to believe that good and evil are separate extremes. But the ancient sages always knew that balance is not found in the exclusion of one pole, but in the integration of both. In occultism, this union is symbolized by the rebis, the androgynous being of alchemy, which represents the final stage of transmutation. It is not about eliminating one side, but about learning how to make them dance together. Carl Jung called this process individuation, where a human being only achieves wholeness by accepting and integrating their shadows. How many times have you tried to repress emotions, hide your vulnerabilities, or force yourself to be purely rational? The problem is that the more we deny a part of ourselves, the more it controls us from the shadows. True balance emerges when we embrace both our light and our darkness without resistance. This means recognizing that anger can be a force of transformation, that vulnerability can be a portal to power, and that fear can teach courage. Hermes Trismegistus taught, "As above, so below. As within, so without." This means that the external world reflects what happens within us. If there is chaos inside, there will be chaos outside. If there are internal conflicts, they will manifest in relationships and material life. Many people live in a battle with themselves because they believe they must choose between opposites. But when we stop resisting and accept our duality, we find peace. This is the secret of true harmony, learning how to balance extremes without letting one dominate the other. In practice, this means acting and resting, planning and flowing, using the mind without ignoring the heart. Paracelsus said that disease arises when there is an imbalance between opposing forces within the human being. This applies to health, relationships, and spirituality. If you always force yourself to be strong, maybe your healing lies in allowing yourself to be fragile. If you always give in to fear, maybe your next step is to take a risk. Transmutation happens when you stop fighting against yourself and start aligning with your essence. Now that you understand that opposites are not enemies, but parts of the same whole, it is time to find what has been waiting within you all along, the inner master. This is the moment when you realize that the answers you have always searched for externally were within you. Are you ready to hear the voice that whispers in the silence? Then proceed to the next portal. Sixth portal, the encounter with the inner master. Throughout life, we have been taught to seek answers outside ourselves. Masters, gurus, sacred books, everything seemed to point to something beyond, as if truth were always distant, hidden behind an impenetrable veil. But true initiates have always known that supreme knowledge cannot be given, it must be awakened. The sixth portal invites us to find the master who has always been with us, our awakened consciousness. It does not speak loudly, does not impose, does not demand followers. It simply waits for you to silence the external noise so you can finally hear it. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the moment when a human being becomes whole by integrating everything they truly are. Many people spend their lives searching for guidance, looking for someone to tell them what to do, what to believe, and where to go. But what if I told you that the master you seek is already inside you? The problem is that most people never learn how to listen to it. The mind is always filled with distractions, worries, and external noise. But when you learn to silence it, the answer reveals itself, and often it was always there. In ancient Egypt, priests taught that the true initiate was not the one who accumulated knowledge, but the one who knew where to seek true wisdom. Hermes Trismegistus said, "The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding." This means the truth cannot be passively absorbed. It must be lived, experienced, and felt. But there is a challenge. Most people fear looking within. Fear of discovering that there are no guarantees. Fear of taking responsibility for their own life. The encounter with the inner master is not a moment of comfort. It is a challenge to awaken. To find this master, you must cross through silence, question certainties, abandon dependence on ready-made truths. This means letting go of the illusion that someone else holds the answers for you. Paracelsus said, "He who does not know himself will never know the world." Want a practical way to begin this journey? During a moment of silence, ask yourself an important question and simply listen, without judgment, without forcing an answer. Just observe what arises. The voice of the inner master does not come from the analytical mind. It comes from deep intuition, from a knowing that needs no explanation. If you have made it this far, it means you have already begun to hear that voice. But something even greater lies ahead. Now that you no longer need an external master, you are ready to understand the final essence of alchemy, the philosopher's stone and ultimate illumination. The true secret of transmutation is not turning lead into gold. It is transforming consciousness into pure light. Are you ready to cross the final portal? Then continue. Seventh portal, the philosopher's stone and final illumination. The search for the philosopher's stone has always been shrouded in mystery. For centuries, alchemists and seekers believed it to be a magical substance, capable of granting immortality and turning metals into gold. But the true masters always knew that the real gold is not external but internal. The philosopher's stone is a symbol of awakened consciousness, the final illumination that can only be attained by those who have passed through the fire of transformation. This final portal reveals that the journey has no absolute end, but rather an eternal cycle of evolution and transmutation. Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientists in history, dedicated a significant part of his life to the study of alchemy. What few realize is that behind his mathematical equations, he understood something that transcends numbers. The mind shapes reality. The philosopher's stone represents exactly this: mastery over oneself and over the perception of the world. But be warned, this power is not a reward for those who merely seek intellectual knowledge. It is granted only to those who dare to apply wisdom to their own lives. Illumination does not happen when something is understood, but when it is lived. The seal, sixth portal, taught us that the master is within us. Now this final portal challenges us to fully embrace this truth. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a state of consciousness that must be sustained every day. Many believe that illumination is a final destination, a fixed point. But ancient, alchemical teachings say otherwise. Every ending is only a new beginning. The philosopher's stone is the realization that the journey never ends, for the expansion of consciousness is infinite. The real question now is not whether you have attained knowledge, but what you will do with it. Those who reach this stage realize that the external world no longer governs them. They are the ones who shape it. This does not mean that life becomes perfect or that challenges disappear. It means that perception of reality changes, and with it, the way one interacts with the world. If you understand that every experience can be transmuted into growth, then nothing can limit you anymore. The true alchemist does not need a physical laboratory, for their consciousness is the forge where they transform fear into courage, doubt into clarity, and suffering into wisdom. This is the final secret of alchemy. The final portal is in your hands. Now that you have crossed the 7 portals of alchemy, there is no turning back to who you were before. You have seen what was hidden, felt the truth vibrating within you. But now comes the greatest question of all. What will you do with this knowledge? Many people only listen, but few apply. Transformation does not happen to those who merely observe. It happens to those who dare to put it into practice. Will you let this wisdom fade away, or will you use it to be reborn? Those who awaken have a choice: to return to the sleep of ignorance, or to embrace the power of their own transmutation. The universe has already given you a sign. You feel that everything has connected in a way that cannot be ignored. So before you leave, reflect. Which of the 7 portals impacted you the most? How do you intend to integrate it into your life? The commitment begins now. If this resonated with you, take the next step. This journey is far from over. Are you ready to go deeper into the mysteries of the soul? Then step forward. The next revelation awaits.